Crime and criminality in this country is nothing new. We as a responsible opposition, under the astute leadership of Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, has told you and have told you time and time again that we are drowning in crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Whilst I was preparing to speak this evening, I was alerted in good old San Fernando. All people know in Trinidad and Tobago that the best places within this country is in South. You'll find the best amount of hospitality that you could ever find. It is in our southern borders. And San Fernando this afternoon was ruptured. The silence of San Fernando, the serenity of San Fernando was ruptured by gunshots and violence. The same gunshots and violence that we've been speaking to you about on a number of occasions. That a stone's throw away in Laramine and Pennywise in Laramine, that a lot of you visit, there would have been violence there this afternoon, where some security officers may have lost their lives, and some unfortunate youths who would have adopted the negative life of crime may have also lost their lives in a confrontation with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. This is the state of affairs, the sad state of affairs that Trinidad and Tobago is currently grappling with. And we continuously call upon the members of the public to stand with us and to indicate that crime is a problem that we all face and that we all need to fight frontally, and indicate to the PNM that enough is enough. Crime and criminality is all around us. That we have been indicating to you that nowhere is safe within Trinidad and Tobago, that our public spaces have been compromised, that our places of worship have been compromised, that our children are no longer safe at their schools, that we, for some time now, have been no longer safe at our homes, that this level of bloodshed, this unprecedented level of bloodshed, it didn't start today. It didn't start at Pennywise in Laramine. It didn't start yesterday. It didn't start last year. It came from the lips of the Prime Minister himself, no less, that Trinidad and Tobago is a violent society. That being the head of the National Security Council and the Prime Minister of this country, whilst he was opposition leader between 2010 and 2015, those words never came forth from his lips. That because he knew factually between 2010 and 2015, under the astute leadership of Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Trinidad was a safe place to live. But between 2015 and 2022, under his tenure, Trinidad and Tobago has become a violent society. And it is being played out in the national newspapers. Every single day you pick up the newspapers, you recognize the level of the emboldened criminal. The criminal element that does not wait to strike at you under the cover of darkness anymore, but is shooting at you indiscriminately in broad daylight, is robbing you indiscriminately in broad daylight. And that is what passes for safety and security in Trinidad and Tobago under this PNM administration. That all of you here this evening, all of you logged on this evening, should never forget the names of the sons and daughters lost to crime and criminality. The Ashanti Rileys, the Andrea Barretts, the two young persons who were shot playing football on a football field in Laventille. Don't forget about those two persons. That gunmen approached victims at a parlor, and whilst shooting at these victims, one of them ran away and pursued that victim at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, no less, while children are playing football on a football field, and fired at them indiscriminately. And the end result, the aftermath, would have been 2 children, young boys, fighting for their lives in the intensive care unit. That is Trinidad and Tobago under Keith Christopher Rowley. That as recently as this weekend at Kelly Village, there was another shooting where an 8-year-old boy would have been shot in his abdomen. That is Trinidad and Tobago under Keith Christopher Rowley. And I said it at the last time I mounted a press conference, that apart from the normal, which has unfortunately become the normal worry of parents who had to send their children to school this term, concerned about where they would get the money for books, where they would get the money for school uniforms, where they would get the money for stationery, how they would feed their children to send them to school. Apart from those normal worries under PNM administration, parents would have to worry that when those kids, those children leave their homes, the safety and security of whatever they could provide for them at their homes, that those children may never return home when they go to school. because the schools within this country aren't safe, that our churches have been desecrated, our temples have been desecrated, and that there's a total breakdown for law and order in this country, and it has been replaced by disrespect and tyranny. That for the year alone, as I stand here tonight, we have over 422 murders being recorded within Trinidad and Tobago. Let that sink in. 422 murders that the PNM have actually presided within their term of office during this current year. More murders than there are days in Trinidad and Tobago. That we are quickly approaching, galloping to our most murderous year in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Over 500 plus murders. Let that sink in, people. That is where we are heading. We are quickly becoming the most murderous country in the world. And while all of this is going on, as I say time and time again, while Trinidad is burning, Rowley and his band of clowns are fiddling in Balize House. That is your Trinidad and Tobago. That is my Trinidad and Tobago. And we need to band together under the UNC, under Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, and try our best to rescue Trinidad and Tobago from this criminal scourge. That while we sit here and we wonder what is going on in this country, all of these events being strictly tethered to the PNM's systematic dismantling and inability to tend to our national security apparatus, we wonder, how did we get here? Why are we where we are? And you don't have to look far, you know, because, I mean, every single time Fitzgerald Hines and the Prime Minister opens their mouth to give a comment on crime and criminality and on national security, they always talk a bunch of rubbish and vitriol. And this time was no different, because the media had big pomp and grandeur, everybody watching what's going on in England with the Queen and whatnot. But we had a lot of festivities here the other day. Parliament open, so everybody dress up nice and thing, and they go into the Parliament and they want to celebrate. And they asked Hines, as he was there, you know, he's the Minister of National Security, what's going on with crime? Crime is a problem. What's the position? And here what do you have to tell you? There's a proliferation of guns in Trinidad and Tobago, which is leading to the increase in shootings and murders. Speaking to the media at the Red House Rotunda following the ceremonial opening of the Parliament yesterday, well, when it had opened, he indicated that there were challenges in dealing with guns coming in from both legal and illegal ports of entry in this country, as he noted that corruption is fueling the criminal enterprise. So you don't know that? What do young people say? Duh! We know that crime is a problem. We know that indiscriminate shooting in this country is a problem. We know that those things are tethered to illegal guns coming into Trinidad and Tobago. We know that the ports have been compromised. There have been several joint select committees where people being paraded up and down the Parliament to tell you we need scanners. And when they tell you they need scanners, you bring the scanners and then the scanners are working after a couple months. And MP Charles at the last press conference asked you, what is the position with the scanners? But you come to tell the media, and you know that's why sometimes you just have to chastise the media. This man telling you all that foolishness when you ask him that question, and you have followed it up to tell the man, well listen, and just the other day at a GSC, what was the situation with the scanners? What are you doing with respect to the illegal guns? We know all of this already. What are you offering as a tangible solution? And after reading this, I wondered to myself if this man is really serious. That he went on to indicate, in addition to this, there's a problem of guns coming in from the illegal ports of entry, including Venezuela via speedboat. And I tell myself, this come like if you're sick. You wake up in the morning, your foot hurting you, your head hurting you. Your mother tell you, go and see the doctor. You go and you visit the doctor, he check you out and then he take the stethoscope, he paid by a chest, he tell you, breathe in, breathe out. And after that now, he cork you with a bill, $5,000. He said, but doc, what's the problem? What's going on with me? He said, well, yeah, your head hurting you and your foot hurting you. Yeah, but doc, what's the solution? Now, you come here for that. Your head hurting you and your foot hurting you, you pay me $5,000. Because every single time they take taxes from you and they give you these foolish responses, that is the dotish quack doctor that we have as the Minister of National Security, telling you the things that you know already that are plaguing this country, but not proffering any palatable solutions for those issues. Those are the clowns that some of us in this country have elected into office. And as a certain person has been saying, I'm seeing on the TikTok, we elect these clowns into office. And we place them squarely at the head of the headmaster's table. And then we expect something different from them when they feed us this foolishness. You're talking about guns coming in from Venezuela. We knew that. And what did Mrs. Prasad Bisessa do? She canceled those OPV boats because they don't make sense in Trinbagonian waters. We need fast, go-fast boats to catch these illegal boats coming into Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why we ordered the interceptors. What is the position with the interceptors today? Where are they now? Are all of them defunct and laid up in Stobbles Bay or Stumbles Bay, as MP Munila likes to call it? What is the position with this I-style unit? You in 2019, Minister Hines, spoke about this unit, a combination of immigration, customs, and all of these arms of the Ministry of National Security, a multi-pronged approach to deal with this type of crime. Where's that today? What are these statistics to prove when all they hustle and talk all kind of nonsense? I just had to remember that I was on television. I was going to use a profanity. I apologize. You talk all this set of nonsense about purchasing Cape-class vessels and run down to Australia to get the Australian boats. And they come now, they commission. But now we still have the same problem subsequent to spending all that money behind these boats. But we told you that would have been the problem. And then you're going on to tell the media, it is blame game as per usual. It is not only Mr. Big, and it is not only the big and rich and the famous. There are many ordinary little people who are involved in that kind of activity, bringing danger into Trinidad and Tobago. So blame the little fish, because Mr. Big is the one financing us. So we'll take no action against them. That is your position. That is what you are telling people. He said sophisticated illegal firearms meant there are double, triple, quadruple murders and mass shootings taking place. Yeah, we know about that. There are several victims of those triple, quadruple murders that are calling out for justice. We hear them every day. They contact us in the opposition and they ask us what is being done at a governmental level. And he went on to say that he personally believes in law enforcement using an intelligence-driven approach to retrieve guns. The minister disclosed that about 2 years ago, 12,000 illegal firearms within this country. 2 years ago, that is the position. God alone only knows how much illegal firearms in Trinidad and Tobago now. And that is what you and your children are facing every single day you leave your homes. That is the hamstrung Minister of National Security that we have. And then going on to speak about what Biden doing and some new project with the ATF and all sorts of foolishness, but not presenting statistical data, empirical data, to prove that anything that they are doing, anything that they touch, has real tangible results affecting the everyday lives of Trinbagonian citizens within this country. And he does not stand alone with his foolishness, because the Prime Minister, the Chair of the National Security Council, joined him at the opening of Parliament. And instead of offering solutions again, he blaming the judiciary to talk about how much money he spent on the judiciary and the quicker pace of justice. And the PM indicated that once crime has been detected and evidence produced, the court must work expeditiously to resolve the matter. And this thing about starting in year 0 and by year 50, it is still going on. That is wholly unacceptable. And whether it is my fault, your fault, or their fault, it is just unacceptable. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Prime Minister and Mr. Minister of National Security. By your own admissions, you have indicated, and we agree with you, that the problem in this country is illegal firearms. By your own admission, and we agree with you, that an emboldened criminal element is threatening our way of life, that persons are being shot indiscriminately, that children are now forming that category of collateral damage within Trinidad and Tobago. And what is your position, your solution to treat with that? What have you done to deal with that? MP Hussain had a press conference with MP from Cuba South yesterday in Dar Singh. to treat with some of those issues. And he laid out the statistics. Because we are party of bright people. We know what statistics are. The proof is in the pudding. And because the problem is gun violence, MP Hussein indicated, well, here what's going on. When the guns are seized from these persons, in order for them to actually be convicted, to serve some time in prison, and not just pay the bail and walk outside, you need to get the guns to Forensic Science Center, test them, issue a certificate of analysis, and proceed with the matter. And that's how you'll get convictions. So you need to ensure that the Forensic Science Center is working optimally. So where's the position with gun sampling and testing at the Forensic Science Center? 42,000 samples remain untested as it pertains to firearms within this country. 42,000 firearms remain untested in this country under the People's National Movement. And they're doing everything they have to do to assist you with gun violence in Trinidad and Tobago. DNA is also essential in terms of combating crime. When I was in the Senate, Faris stand up and he beat his chest. If you assist us and pass DNA legislation today, we have over 2,000 DNA kits on the port, and we'll put them into use immediately, and this and that and the other. And that's since 2019. You know how much DNA samples remain untested? 32,784 samples remain untested. And that's because the DNA lab in the FSC, Forensic Science Center, was dysfunctional, not working for 3 years between 2018 and 2021. And that is under the People's National Movement. That they always like to come and chastise the opposition about legislation and not being supportive and not being patriotic. And nothing could be further from the truth. We've always supported them when the legislation is geared towards assisting people within this country. Always. And the anti-gang legislation was one of them. And we assisted them with that. And MP Hussein spoke about the statistics. They've told us 134 gangs operated in Trinidad and Tobago. 134 gangs in Trinidad and Tobago with 1,462 gang members. And anti-gang legislation in effect, and it passed. And for 2022, only one person get charged on the anti-gang. One person. And for the lifetime of the anti-gang legislation, you know how many convictions? That means a man going to court, he go on through the trial period, and he get convicted. You know how many people get convicted under anti-gang legislation? The same anti-gang legislation they beg us for, that we supported, that they want to throw in people's face now. You know how many people get convicted? None. Zero. Nada. Zilch for all the Spanish in this country. No one. Nunca. That is the position. And then they want to tell you that they are serious about crime and criminality in Trinidad and Tobago and national security and all that goes along with it. A bunch of jokers, a bunch of clowns who sit at the headmaster's table. That's what you have for government in Trinidad and Tobago. And then they want to now come and rush people and influence persons and talk about they're doing this and that for crime. And attacking people all over this country. I want to say something categorically here this evening. I am a good friend of MP David Lee. And I, Sean Sobers, stand in solidarity with my brother, MP David Lee. And MP David Lee has the power of all of us members of the United National Congress, 100,000 plus strong behind him. He has the power of the good Lord backing him. He has the power of the political leader backing him. And he has one of the best criminal defense teams that this country has ever seen backing him. So no weapon formed against MP Lee or anybody in the United National Congress will ever stand against us. And I want to tell those persons involved in those institutions that all of this turns on trust in a system that is to be independent and free from political interference. And I, personally, as a practitioner before the courts, I maintain that I believe that there are good persons involved in our independent institutions. I equally maintain that what I will continuously be concerned for is the political interference of those persons, none other than by the PNM. I urge all persons charged with the various responsibilities in those institutions to be bastions of truth and justice, to be fearless and independent, and to always fight against the tentacles of PNM political interference. Never before in this country, it has been unprecedented that we are faced by a most dangerous political party other than the PNM. And if you really and truly want to see good governance, transparency, accountability, fairness, justice return to this country, not for yourselves only, but for your children, there's only one political party, one leader that can return that to Trinidad and Tobago, and that is the UNC. Do what you are charged to do when that time comes, and we will see Trinidad and Tobago rise from the depths that it is currently suffering in under this PNM administration. Good evening and good night, everyone.
Everybody crying out for democracy. Now it's time to take a stand, yeah. Come on! 'Cause this is the revolution, the people's revolution. This is the revolution. I want to hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom.
Thank you very much, Sean, for that dynamic delivery. And you are quite right, because the only growth under this industry, under this PNM incompetent government, is crime. And that is out of control. All you know why? Because we have a Minister of National Security with no brain. Our next speaker is no stranger to the UNC. Having previously served as the Member of Parliament for Caroni East and Minister of Education, a renowned medical practitioner for several decades, he continues to serve the national interest by sharing his expertise with us in the platform tonight. Please welcome to the UNC platform, Dr. Tim Gopi Singh.
It's time to take a stand, yeah. 'Cause this is the revolution, the people's revolution. This is the revolution. I want to hear everybody sing. Everybody sing.
Young Councillor, we look forward to your continued growth and development in the United National Congress and the nation as a whole. May you go from strength to strength. Honorable political leader, members of parliament, members of national executive, all party officers, a very good evening to all our loyal supporters, activists, friends, and our viewing and listening audience on the various TV, radio, and internet channels. Thank you for your never-ending support for our great United National Congress, 32 years young. I have lived in this country for many decades as a sportsman, academic, medical doctor, and a politician for 28 years. So for a few decades, more that I care to confess. I have as well so many of you listening as well have been through decades of this. You have lived through a significant part of this country's history from the 1960s. Therefore, you and I, who have been through decades of life in this country, would be able to tell the younger ones that we can see the repeat of extremely dangerous PNM political trends and actions that have served only to destroy our country and our citizens' lives and livelihoods. What we are experiencing now is PNM's continuation of their destructive history of corruption, thievery, calculated lies, divisiveness, vicious political persecution, and frontal and brazen attack on our citizens and us, their political opponents. We are witnessing frontal attack on our sacred constitution and democratic institutions by Rowley and a seriously incompetent and dishonorable team. The latest attack on Member of Parliament David Lee is an extremely serious example of this dangerous trend. I will not say more on this because it is before the courts. I respect the due process of law. So unlike Rowley, Hines, and the PNM cohorts, who don't even respect themselves, we leave that to them. This is not the first time and will not be the last. This wicked PNM, in its many incarnations, are continuing to unleash their political persecution, their viciousness, their hate, their spite, and their malice when they are being knocked down from all corners and sectors of our nation's people. From across the country, people are calling them out, and how unhappy our people have become in a short space within particularly the last 2 years, but more so within 7 years. They continue engaging in illegal subversion of our Constitution. They move on our value of law to politically persecute our UNC and political rivals. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a long-standing trend and habits of distracting this population every single time their backs are against the wall, and when they are being punched and they're on the ropes and they're moving to the fall onto the canvas, then they turn, when the people have turned on them with their blatant and brazen corruption, their lies, their deceit, their hypocrisy, and overt mismanagement and theft of our resources, all these so nakedly exposed. Rowley, Imbert, Hines, and Camille, and some older heads in the current Rowley cabinet have all been part and parcel of this trend since 1991. Simply old dogs using old tricks on new generations of our suffering and hurting people. My friends, up to this day, our great UNC founder and former Prime Minister Basdew Pandey is still battling PNM nasty, politically motivated trump-up charges. He has been in court for over 20 years, brought against him by the then Manning government. Manning has passed, God bless his soul, of which Rowley, Imbert, Camille, and Hines were all part of that. Many of these charges were eventually dropped by the courts, while some are still dragging on. Imagine 20 years later. That is PNM's persecution. I myself was a victim of this and PNM political persecution 20 years ago. These charges were dropped by Chief Magistrate McNichol as charges not known to law. Manning appealed nastiness, appealed the Chief Magistrate ruling, and the High Court Justice Myers ruled again, charges not known to law. Manning then went to attack this Chief Justice Sat Sharma then, when Sharma refused to compromise the judiciary's independence to interfere in Manning's political witch hunts at that time. Manning had him arrested, the Chief Justice Sat Sharma. He famously told him then, resign or be charged. It was a headline on the newspapers. Manning tells Sat Sharma, resign or be charged. Imagine the Prime Minister Manning telling the Chief Justice, what has Rowley done on the issue of the present Chief Justice? I leave that for the population to answer. When the matter came up for hearing, that matter against the Chief Justice Sharma fell apart in court within seconds. Then the British Lord Mustill Tribunal found that it was Manning's Attorney General, John Jeremy, who had acted improperly, not Chief Justice Sharma. So you hounded the Chief Justice, and when he was innocent, the Lord Mustill was telling Manning and the PNM government that it is your own Attorney General who acted improperly. And that is PNM for it. PNM had a police service and always have a police service handled by commissioners and senior police officers who might be considered agents of the PNM. Instead of discharging their duties independently, as constitutionally required to do, the highest officials have always been political appointees who break the law themselves and carry out the PNM illegal directives, as we are seeing now. We are vividly witnessing that again today, as it is in the case of David Lee. Rowley himself broke the law and interfered with the independent president's office to ensure that Gary Griffith was not reappointed as police commissioner. Gary Griffith has said publicly that this was because he, Gary, refused to do Rowley's bidding to illegally lock up UNC MPs. That was what Rowley was telling him. Lock up the UNC MPs. Why are you not locking up the UNC MPs? So Rowley forced him out and appointed his own political hack. And immediately you see what is happening? An arrest. Yet no arrest for every single PNM member who has persistently broken the law and engaged in misbehavior in public life for decades. No, you wouldn't hear a PNM being arrested or charged. And this includes allegations against Prime Minister Rowley himself, brought on by Manning in the infamous Landate matter and Cleaver Heights matter. Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak a few minutes on the corruption issues. And would you be kind enough to show the audience this photograph? You see there, what is that building? That is Balije House going up. 6 stories. And it is under construction. And the old Balije House have been brought back to a new state. How much do you estimate this Balije House to cost? Some estimate it to be 40 million, some 50 million. Some a little more. Where is the PNM getting that money from? To build a 40 million or a 50 million building? Why is it they don't want the procurement legislation? Who is building it for them? Did they try to fool the country and you have some big hardback men like Iwer and Rowley and Stuart Young standing outside Price Plaza in the West? Price Mart in the West, standing up selling raffle tickets. How much raffle tickets you have to sell to build that? How much $1 block will build that? I want to ask tonight, the members of the Financial Intelligence Unit, the Integrity Commission, and all the institutions of this country must immediately launch an investigation into the construction of this PNM Balije House. If it were UNC building the headquarters, about 100 UNC would be in jail by now. Who is building that? Where are they getting the money from? What corruption is going on to get the money for the concrete work to go on, for the steel work to go on? $50 million. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you a brief history of PNM's corruption since 1962. Over the last 60 years, and the billions and billions PNM caused to be stolen and corruptly spent. I have to say this because the younger generations do not know this. Those from 1962, we want to educate the young generation on PNM corruption since 1962, since the days of Dr. Eric Williams. And if we estimate it, more than close to $500 billion, $500 billion have been corruptly spent by PNM and its operatives. They have caused your great-grandparents, your grandparents, your parents, your children, severe hardships because of their corruption. And future generations will continue to suffer under Rowley and PNM. Citizens unable to have food at times. 30% of this population not having one meal for the day, and 5% have to skip a day without food. What are they doing about securing your proper health care, education, and serious loss of lives that we hear this evening? Let me give you some of the PNM's corruption and corrupt expenditure in 2015 to 2020, their first term in office. Fake oil. Hundreds of millions have been corruptly stolen. And Rowley, to protect his friend, closed down the whole of Petrotrin. Billions of dollars closed down and lost to protect his friend and to protect the information that would have been available. So he didn't want any information to be found. So he closed down and mashed up Petrotrin. 7,500 people lost their jobs. Over 100,000 people affected. Billions in revenue lost from the refinery closure, and now with the scrap iron. What about the ferry purchase of the Austral and Incat vessels? 1.2 billion without any tender. Rowley gone down to Australia, he say, I want that and I want that. What tendering? We don't know the cost of it. The Cabo Star, the lease for $13 million. The Ocean Flower, lease for $20 million. Rowley himself publicly admitted that there was corruption in the Ocean Flower. $50 million spent on the TT Spirit repair. And where's the TT Spirit now? Manzanilla Highway, 5 miles, $400 million. Diego Martin Sporting Complex, Anil and myself spoke about that recently, $200 million. Tamana Intech Park, $3 billion. $3 billion PNM have spent so far and unoccupied by any university or any IT company. San Fernando Waterfront Project, $500 million. TSTT purchase of Massey, $220 million by PNM Friends. PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young, as soon as PNM came into office in 2015, they hired these two companies at $30 million and $30 million each to see what all you could find about corruption amongst UNC people. Up 7 years later, they can't find one damn thing. But 60 million gone. And yet, they hired a team from United Kingdom. They spent $40 million on them, and they still can't find nothing. I forget the lady name, Kate. And she back here again, another $40 million given to them. So 60 plus 40 plus 40, 140 million they spent it to see who they could lock up on UNC. That is what they're doing with your money. That is what Rowley is doing. He and a number of people should be considered to be. I don't want to. I have cooled down. Taruba Stadium. Taruba Stadium was commissioned in 2004 when we had the World Cup cricket in 2007. Lara, what is it? Heyday and so on. They failed to build it in 2007. That was supposed to cost less than 500 million. It ended up costing 1.2 billion. It started in 2007 and finished 10 years later in 2017. That's where all our people now go. 2017, 10 years. 1.2 billion. And then they gave the family of a present minister to hose it down for $100 million. Atlantic LNG train. They spent $400 million to restart it, and then they close it again. So hundreds of billions of dollars corruptly spent, and with allegations against the PNM. What about in 2002 to 2010? $2 billion spent on the summit in 2009. Don't forget that, ladies and gentlemen. 18 billion spent by Malcolm Jones on the World BTL. $18 billion. That Trinidad still has to pay a loan of 950 million US with a 9.5% interest. So that's going on for almost since 2007. Tobago Hospital was supposed to cost $120 million in 2001. I remember that distinctly, being involved in the health sector. It ended up costing $1.2 billion. And it was the People's Partnership government that had to complete it. Mrs. Kamla Prasad, Bissessar, had to complete it. Manning built a $240 million palace, the Diplomatic Center, with 3 million drapes. You all will remember that. Some of you young. $3 million in drapes for the Diplomatic Center. And Imbert spent $576 million on a rapid rail feasibility study. A feasibility study. People forgetting that in the country now. PNM must be held accountable, and we should never see the PNM ever in this country again. What about the 30 million Mystery Guanapo Church? Called a hard 368 million contract to his brother-in-law, and Udicott called a hard scandal. So, 30 million bamboo network scandal, 1.8 billion overrun waterfront project, 650 million overrun legal affairs tower, 700 million Chancery Lane complex, 600 million overrun in Sapa, 576 million overrun in Napa, 50 million blimp, which was blind, Sunway construction, 300 million quarry contract scandal, Red House 440 million, President House 89 million, Buku Estate during the Sandals deal, 174 million lost. Prime Minister Tobago residents, 18 million. Stuart Young Brothers finance deals with the state and NCB Global, over 4 billion. China Group International Engineering Company and HDC contract cancelled, 71 million US. Faris Al-Rawi, 20 million per year in rental. Tobago Financial Complex, 18 million cost overrun. Tobago Library, 80 million cost overrun. 50 million for the boat SU, which never float. 45 million secret scholarship fund. PNM chairman's wife, 60 million contract days before 2010 election. Europe interchange, how much was paid for Kedona, and so on. So ladies and gentlemen, there's much more to speak about. I have sent to my colleagues about 10 pages about at least 20 areas of corruption that our party will give to the national population. So we have identified over 200 areas of widespread corruption during PNM's administration. So in the conclusion, my friends, do not be distracted. Stand up for your rights and your democracy and the prevention of interference by Rowley and his vicious, lying, hypocritical PNM. Protect our constitutionally enshrined independent institutions. Every time each one of us fail or fall for PNM lies, with their illegal political persecution, their illegal use of state resources to persecute its political enemies, we, our people who accept that, we surrender our constitutional democracy. We surrender our God-given rights and freedom. Stand up to Rowley's commandeering of the police service like it is his police service. We must stand up and tell the population that Jacob cannot put people in jail because Rowley tell you to do so. You have to come better than that. Personally, political persecution gangs, instead of doing his illegal bidding, they should be fighting crimes. Today I call on the judiciary, the Chief Justice and his team, and the DPP to stand up and preserve our democracy and do not be frightened by the PNM and Rowley. I call on the Chief Justice and the judiciary and the office of the DPP, stand up and not fall victims to Rowley's political interference. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters and our fellow citizens, this is your country. The time has come to take it back from these PNM criminals in government and kick them out of office. Stay strong. Be resolute and determined to remove this wicked, lying, thieving, corrupt, dangerous, failed, incompetent, Rowley government. We must come together, ladies and gentlemen. We must not allow your children and grandchildren and future generations to suffer at their hands. Time to act is now. Let's work together to remove Rowley and his team. And they must never be allowed to see the reins of governance ever into the future. Come and join hands with Kamla Prasad Bisesa as the leader of the United National Congress. Come together, all of us, those who have been out, those who want to come back. We have to form a strong, powerful team and remove the PNM once and for all from the surface of Trinidad and Tobago. They must never see victory again in this country. Thank you very much.
Some of them crying out for freedom. Everybody crying out for democracy. Now it's time to take a stand, yeah.
Wow! A Wikipedia log of corruption. Will it ever end by this PNM government? Thank you very much, Dr. Gopi Singh. And let us not forget the man who has just spoken, the former Minister of Education, who did so much for our nation, for our country. He gave off close to 100,000 laptops, 96,000 to be exact, in 106 schools. And under his stewardship, 72 schools are still incomplete to this day, which the PNM has failed to complete. Not one has been completed out of those 72 schools. Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, we need you back to complete those schools here. Our next speaker is a champion for sports in the development of our youth in Trinidad and Tobago. He is the host of the popular talk show, Dogla Politics. The gentleman who is about to come, he is fearless, he is bold and brave in his commentary. He's factual, he lays facts on the table and can stand on it. That is why up to this day, no one can sue him for all that he is saying and all that he will continue to say. He is fiery. He will scorch and burn with political fire the PNM out of the ills of the society that PNM is imposing upon us. He is also a friend of everyone. He will advocate for any injustice that has been done by this dictatorial government, the PNM. Next on our podium is a Team UNC member under our astute leadership of our political leader, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, a man who will continue to speak out to remove this incompetent, this clueless, this wicked government, move it out of the face of Trinidad and Tobago, and bring in a government who will care for the people, a caring government. Let us bring on our virtual platform none other than Senator Anil Roberts.
People crying out for justice. Some of them crying out for freedom. Everybody crying out for democracy.
Happy 50th anniversary to Dr. and Mrs. Bisesa. 50 years of wedded bliss. To the blight who was in cricket, who could blight the greatest team on earth, I just want to ask you, but Sharon don't like cricket too? But I ain't come for that, not tonight. We come for serious thing tonight. Her Excellency Paula May Weeks contemplated, conceptualized, and concocted a throne speech delivered from a bully pulpit to denigrate, to disrespect, and to bring patriotic parliamentarians into odium and disrepute. But she did so from an untenable position of mediocrity, dishonesty, culpability, dishonor, and denial. Paula May came to the office of president on merit and has transformed her excellency into her criminality. Paula, the title Your Excellency was designed by the framers of our Constitution so that only the best of the best, the brightest of the bright, and the most upstanding moral and ethical individuals would even be considered to hold the office of president. Paula, you got there on merit, but then you conspired with a cheater to thwart merit. But for the result of your misbehavior with Keith Christopher Rowley, which is and still is painful to Trinidad and Tobago, the ascendancy of a mediocre candidate to hold the esteemed, critically important office of Commissioner of Police, that people around you, Rowley, Blessy Prasad, and you yourself have not been criminally charged for misbehavior in public office is only because that person benefited from the crime perpetrated on August 11, 2021. The Commissioner of Police has sent no file to the DPP, and the DPP is ignoring the UNC. It is only your nepotistic, questionable, myopic, conflicted appointments to the independent Senate bench that prevented a tribunal to investigate your misbehavior, Paula. While your Bishop's Tea Party, your presiding officer, thwarted debate in the Electoral College to uphold your mediocrity, Paula. Paula May, your excellency is only a title by office. You, Paula, have broken your oath. You have broken the trust, and you have broken the law. So, Paula May, you may not lecture citizens on propriety, integrity, honesty, patriotism, and morality, for you have been found wanting in all of these spheres. So no, Paula, no, you may not. You thwarted the merit list. Why does one want to thwart merit? Merit is good. Merit is honest. Merit is positive. Merit is effective. Merit is fair. To thwart merit, one has to be bad, dishonest, negative, ineffective, and unfair. Thwarting merit is dangerous. It allows for pathways of underachievement, incompetence, and corruption to rise to the top to suffer the entire nation. Paula, you may not, because more than you are illegal, more than your actions were anti-democratic, more than your actions were unconstitutional, more than your actions were unpatriotic, your actions, Paula, were dangerous and have led to bloodletting across the entirety of Trinidad and Tobago. So no, Paula, you may not. The 594 that I had yesterday when penning this speech now has moved to 604 murder victims since August 11, 2021, when you let Rowley whisper sweet nothings in your ear, Paula. These dead people say, no, Paula, you may not lecture the parliamentarians. The 7 children ranging between the ages of 3 and 11 who are being shot by bullets say, no, Paula. So, Paula, you may not. The hundreds of women raped, battered, beaten with impunity and no convictions. These women say, no, Paula, you may not. Opening your business in Trinidad and Tobago is a deadly risk as we speak. Arriving home after work and school is a risk. Selling doubles, you can die. Stopping in traffic or at a red light strikes fear into the hearts of citizens, Paula. So no, Paula, take off your purple curtain and don't talk down to us, Paula. Because of your illegal action, Paula, because you thwarted merit, Paula, because you cheated for the PNM, Paula, because you breached your oath of office, Paula, because you were an unpatriotic, politically pliable, dishonest, arrogant disgrace, Paula, the citizens say to you in one voice, Paula, you may not. But some have benefited from your lack of character, Paula. The sum happens to be all the PNM bigwigs. For example, Rowley has not been charged yet for not filling out his Form B of his integrity forms. He has not been charged yet for lying on his integrity form about the value of his Inez Gate property that he negotiated from a contractor who gets contracts from the PNM. He's paid $1.2 million and he paid $33,600 stamp duty. That equates to a value of $1.68 million. Rowley in his crapofoot writing on Form A with 7 different types of writing put that the value was 1.2 million. That's a lie. He signed that. That's a criminal charge. But no charge, DCP Jacob, the sixth place man who's been elevated because Paula let Rowley whisper in she ears on August 11, 2021. What about Camille, the cash lady? Sign a declaration. False. She took out, as she says, she take out the money from there. It come there, the bank say, nah. What happened with that, Paula? Where the cash come from, Camille? You're talking, you didn't want it to go and buy some more wigs. You come to play, you're looking like Anil with bald head. You could never look good like the Douglas. Foster Cummins, Cummins and goings. Foster Cummins with land. Foster Cummins with Venture Credit Union. Foster Cummins with MTS. Where the charge, Paula? Where the charge? Fake oil investigations. All they needed was funding to pay for an engineer to authorize and identify the audit and the quantum of oil coming out. No money forthcoming, Paula. Why, Paula? Because you let Rowley whisper in your ears, and you let Rowley's friend dance bareback using racial epithets towards everybody in this country. And Rowley's friend, Rowley said that's his friend, but the papers don't say Rowley. Is that still your friend when he uses the N-word and the C-word? Nobody asked him that, but a councillor in Grandy who happened to be black and who allowed to use the N-word, she said, all you're making front page. Paula. A man find a Cayman in Aranguez. Protect the people. That Cayman could have bite a child. But he end up in a police car, lock up because hunting season finished February 28, 2022. Okay, the law is the law. But what about Crow, who boasts that he had a 70th birthday with 2 guana and a goatee? Where Crow? I want to see the little PNM racist midget in a van sitting down with the handcuff, Paula. Where? Did Convent girl break the red light when there was an accident by Beatham? Coming off the public bus route to come on to the highway and bounce a man going east. Did he break the traffic light? We don't know, Paula. Isn't it every time you get in an accident, the police tell you, well, even though you've made this statement, there is still the possibility that we could charge you for reckless endangerment and bad driving. What happened with the Convent girl, Paula? Faris illegal indemnity with a witness in a criminal matter. DPP. Commissioner of Police, can an Attorney General interfere in a criminal case and sign a deal with a witness in a criminal probe? Oh, Lord. Well, if it's PNM, you can. So, Paula, next throne speech. Since you don't have the caliber to resign, Paula, because we know you like that little put on the front curtain and come out, you wake up from your slumber, you eat plenty, you go in the plantation house and you tell yourself you're looking good. You decide who you invite to national awards, have 27 African and 5 Indian and say, yes, great is the PNM. That's not racist, that is equity, that is nationality. You have divided this country with Rowley. So, Paula, I know you wouldn't resign because you covet office. You don't covet other things, but you covet office. Your speech should take a whopping 11 seconds. Let me write your speech for you for next year throne speech when you come with a different color curtain, Paula. Hear your speech. As you chant it from your expansive lungs. Great is the undemocratic PNM. Great is the unpatriotic PNM. Great is the evil PNM. I too am a PNM, and PNM shall prevail. That's your speech and walk out. That's the disgrace that you are, Paula May Weeks. Be proud of your cult, Paula, the PNM cult. Save your hypocrisy for your Bishop's Tea Party at the Plantation House, refurbished by your PNM for 118 million while children can't get laptops, people starving, and you cut food cards from differently able. But you looking good in the mirror in the slave house, Paula. Say, whoa, my ancestors, look, I dance the 2-step to pan over your dead carcasses in this plantation house that Rowley and his corrupt PNM have built for me to gallery myself while I still sleep in Hillcrest down in Pity Valley. To your specifications, your partner in crime, Keith Christopher Rowley, as the UNC joins with the people to say, no, Paula, you may not. But what is wrong with merit We teach our children to work hard, be disciplined, show stick-to-itiveness, passion, creativity, and you will rise. I learned that quite back in 1980 swimming. I was swimming back then. They had no touch pads and no electronic timing like what Kamala built in the aquatic center that Shamaford don't even know how to maintain, and it turned green and nothing going on there and it's cobweb. But Kamala built that, you touch the pad, boop. Your electronic time come up fancy. Greatest facility in the Western Hemisphere by Kamala Prasad Bisesa. Back then didn't have that. It had 3 people with stopwatch. And them 3 people, well, there's just like the PNM. They will tend to cheat because they're friend and family and nepotism and so on. And I swim a race against my friend Japedi Kudre, who's now the CEO at one of them big, if you only want a Volvo, check him out, right? But I beat him. And I know how to touch him because you could see through your peripheral vision. But the timekeepers stop their watch and they give him the race. I come out with my little afro bronze I had here then. Rub coconut oil in it. My Indian mother used to do that, Rowley. You remember you tell Glenn Ramadan, go and put more coconut oil in his head with your racist self, Rowley, in the parliament in 2011. My mother used to put coconut oil in my head. It didn't work to keep it for longevity, but it used to look good with the afro. And I come to my father and I say, Daddy, but I'm crying. I say, but I win. I out touch him and they cheat me. I say, my father go hug me up. I say, don't mind that. Next race, boy, you take them. He said, come. He said, was the race close? I said, yes, Daddy, it was real close, but I out touch him by this much. He said, once it close, you lost. Go and sit down. End of story. Because he believed in merit. And from then on, I win race by body length and a half. I work harder, I wake up earlier, I lift more weight, I get faster. Because merit is what it's about. But losers, incompetence and failures, fear merit. The PNM fears merit. Those who fear merit must cheat to win. Drug cheats like Ben Johnson, Marion Jones, Russian President Putin, who's friends with Rowley, in the Sochi games where they were cheating so dastardly that they were taking drug tests and slipping it through the wall to come back and get fake results, just like Rowley cheating with Paula May on August 11th to thwart merit, to stop a police commissioner who was duly to be appointed, and the meritless to appoint someone who Rowley could instruct, could tell them what to do, and he would say, yes, boss, like the plane on Fantasy Island. Yes, boss, what to do, boss? Oh, gosh, boss, you don't like special branch? I will disband the whole special branch because they're doing you wickedness. Oh, Lord, boss, that's what Rowley wants, and that's what he got. But those who cheat, and the PNM are cheats. Why? Because they cannot perform. They cannot beat Kamala Prasad Bisesa on education, on health, on sport, on culture, job creation, roads, infrastructure, local government, investment, energy sector, drilling, new water, 74%. Anything across the board, Kamala beats Rowley. So what must Rowley do? Cheat, Paula. Cheat. That's why they appoint a PNM niece of a former minister to the EBC, and she's the best friend of the bundles lady, went to SAGS. Look at the picture, show it on Douglas Politics, with Narcissus Scope hugging up bundles. She's in charge of refereeing a race between her best friend and her family against the UNC, and you all find that's fair, and Paula? When they cheat, they create a commissioner of police who will leave PNM criminals and find innocent UNC and throw charge so that they could come and lie and pretend that they win some election. They put independent PNM senators like Helen Drayton and Martin Daly who pretend that they are independent and still writing columns with their PNM Balize juice all up in their nose hole to go and lie to the population. There is nothing more corrupt than feigning independence. You have a central bank governor that's a neighbor in Inez Gate of Rowley, and Rowley should be locked up for his breach of his Integrity in Public Life Act forms. The presiding officers now appointed by the PNM are the worst in history. We now have senior counsel who say that lying on an affidavit is okay because him a be my friend. So you could lie, you could break the law, you could go under threat of perjury, but no big thing. You give me millions of dollars, 21 million in brief, 17 million in brief, 14 million in brief, and I say, well, you was in a hotel room. Well, Rowley might have been in a hotel room with Budit just now, you will find out. PNM Permanent Secretary is Vishnu Dan Paul, Ministry of Finance, talking about PNM policy. Alison due diligence Lewis, former Permanent Secretary, when Kamala lost, jump out and jump on the PNM board of the Port Authority, and now on Nikwan blow up, she get 120 million, they can't pay it back, they get minister's gas. That is PNM corruption, and that is perpetrated and allowed by our cheating media, cheating Paula, cheating institutions. But people standing together can't conquer cheaters. Cheaters never prosper when good people get together. Once we understand that Dr. Williams taught the opposition to divide and chip away, and little minuscule ones want a little power to say, Kamala, if I don't get this job, I will not join with you. It's about me, 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 me. When we understand that the country is more important than selfish needs and we unite, no amount of cheating could beat us. No gerrymandering could beat us. We could eliminate the PNM from the entire landscape like what happened in Tobago. Tobago did it. Trinidad is waiting. In our society, post-Paula May weeks and the PM's postulation. If you want a column in The Guardian now, it's not merit, it's not about journalism, it's not about education. It's about if you're bad talk, Kamala, you get a column. You want a bursary? Well, scream, great is the PNM, because scholarship, merit, no more. If you are a woman in the PNM and you want to be a cabinet minister, you have to give Rowley Pum Pum and you get in. And AG moves right now in Trinidad and Tobago. The office of the Attorney General is one of the highest, most respected intellectual offices ever in government. But under the PNM, you move from a dunce to a liar. That's when merit is gone. The Minister of Health is a druggist. The Minister of Finance is short of credentials. The Minister of Education creates bundles of problems. The Minister of Public Utilities is chosen because, in the words of his Prime Minister, he knows absolutely nothing about WASA. But he know about nice suit, he looking good. Ecliffe, Eli dressing him nice, boy. What's going on there? What going on? We'll go discuss that on Douglas Politics, eh? Fine, you're looking a little Ecliffe. Our PM, a Prime Minister so blight, that the only queen that we knew and have ever known in our lifetimes succumbs and dies on Rowley arrival at Gatwick. And then when he arrived at Piaco, the TKR lost. That is blight. So to you, Paula, you may not. To the PNM, you may not. To Rowley, you may not. To the citizens, all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, yes, you may. You may unite under the UNC. You may join the UNC. You may support the UNC. You may vote UNC. UNC, one party, one people, one nation, under God. Blessings. Good night.
Everybody say freedom. Everybody say. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy, and this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship.
Thank you, Anil Roberts, for continuing to speak out against the ills of this present PNM government. And we know you will continue to valiantly defend our democracy. Anil Roberts was the best ever Minister of Sports in Trinidad and Tobago. Don't forget, we are live on TV and Radio Jagrati, Synergy TV, Free FM, Street 91.9 FM, More 104.7 FM, and all platform. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is our featured speaker here tonight. He is a UNC veteran. He is not afraid to take on any political battle. He is a firebrand in the parliament and on the platform. And in a few moments, you will know why. He is known as the Lion. Let us welcome our featured speaker, Member of Parliament for Erpooch East, Dr. Rudal Munilal.
I want to hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom.
our hardworking and dynamic sister, Jalen Rupnarine, for the very kind invitation and introduction to speak. This evening we are broadcasting live, of course, from our headquarters, our Monday night forum. Let me begin by acknowledging, of course, the political leader, the opposition leader, former Prime Minister and Member of Parliament for the constituency of Siparia, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisessa, political leader, and the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Brothers and sisters, we welcome as well members of the National Executive, parliamentary colleagues, speakers on the platform, many of you coming out tonight to participate and witness this meeting. May I also acknowledge our supporters, our activists, friends from abroad in the CARICOM region, certainly in North America, Canada, and the United States, and those in Europe who would join us now through various social media platforms. We welcome very much your participation, your interest in the affairs of the United National Congress and in the current affairs of Trinidad and Tobago. Notwithstanding, wherever you are in the world, we are part of the UNC family, and we welcome you to this meeting, wherever you are. The thousands and thousands of supporters in Trinidad and Tobago listening tonight as well, you're most welcome to listen to the issues, our speakers. I wanted to acknowledge this evening, before I begin my presentation, our very dynamic chairpersons, Councillor Richard Sukdev, Councillor Richard Sukdev. Let's give him a round of applause. Let's give Councillor Jalen Rupnarine a round of applause for her great work this evening. And of course, we had our very dynamic youth speaker, Kavesh Siudia. Let's give him a round of applause. He spoke about the OJT matter, which was very, very critical. And after him, of course, we had a very, very brave and bold presentation on the issues facing not just San Fernando, but the judiciary and the justice system. Let's give a big round of applause to Senator Sean Sobers. And when Senator Sobers was finished, you know, he lit a fire. And I think Dr. Tim Gopi Singh came here and blazed away. The veteran, the legend, Tim, up to me, I don't know where they're selling $1 raffle ticket and building $14 million building. And of course, I don't know why they put me to speak after Senator Anil Roberts. I don't know why they do me this injustice. This is not the first time it's happening. And I don't know, maybe I have to appeal to my longtime friend, Jillian John. I don't know, every time I speak now, they put me after this firebrand, this eloquent, this dynamic, this outspoken master of public speaking and public affairs. Let's give a round of applause to Senator Anil Roberts. Probably the bravest man in Trinidad and Tobago. Probably the bravest soldier in our army. They have targeted him as they have targeted others, and I think he's right up there among the targets. And you can see why. They target him because he target them. That is why they target him, because he is targeting them. And Senator Roberts, you know, he call it as he see it. And he has that capacity, that courage, that we must not just commend and welcome, but we must encourage and praise, because many people are in politics. And if you tell them stand up at a platform and make a critical comment, take the attack to our enemies, what they do? They put their tail between their legs and they take off. They don't have that. They don't have that courage. And when we are in struggle and battle, you need the courage of Anil Roberts and others. And they are in the UNC. That is the blood we have from the ULF. That is our blood. Struggle, fight. And I'm coming to that later as well as a thematic for my presentation. Brothers and sisters, where are we as a country? Today in this country, there's nowhere to hide. There's no place to hide. There was a time in this country when we identified what used to be called hotspots. And if you're not living in a hotspot, you say, well, there's no problem. I'm not in a hotspot. That's crime taking place here and there and this one and that place. That's a hotspot, man. We could enjoy. There is no place in Trinidad and Tobago now that is not a hotspot. You will be killed anywhere. You will be attacked, murdered, anywhere in this country. Sometimes people who are well-to-do and so on, they live in little communities that they have nice-looking houses and maybe little garden and so on. They felt at one time, I safe. That is them fellas in hotspot and things shooting on each other. Today they're not safe. If you have a house, you're not safe. If you have a job, you're not safe. If you have a business, well, you're going through. As we speak today, hours ago, bandits attacked at, is it Pennywise? Nearby here, 5 minutes from here, La Romaine. Attacked to rob. They killed, I believe, a security guard. Critically injured another. And you know what is amazing about this one? A bullet grazed and passed the face of a primary school boy. Now imagine that. A boy of primary school age happened to be at the Pennywise with whoever purchasing or walking, and a bullet grazed him, his face. That is where we are. So who will take their children to a mall? Who will take their children walking on the promenade with an ice cream? You can't. We are in a land where you are not safe anywhere. There's nowhere to hide. And those people who thought you could hide, you cannot. You cannot. Some will leave the country, as many do. But not everybody could leave. So we have a duty to stand up. And we have a duty to identify the dictator. And to attack him on the platform. And give every single bit of muscle and blood and strength to removing the dictator Keith Rowley. That is what we must do. We must not be scared. Sometimes when I'm going to talk, you know, some people send me messages and so on. They say, Rudy, you're going to talk. I want to hear about this policy and that policy and that policy. You must talk policy, man. You always attacking the PNM and Rowley and everything. Policy. I want to tell you tonight, the policy is to remove Keith Rowley. That's the policy. You want to know the policy? That's the policy. That's the policy I talk about. What is the sense you talking policy, 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 and he there running amok with our democracy? He is the most corrosive and dangerous element that this country has ever faced. This country never faced the danger today. If another party takes power and behave like Keith Rowley, that is it for this country. Gone through. And the president, Anil Roberts, spoke about her. I want to tell Paula may not. As Anil Roberts said, Paula may not. I want to tell Paula, I had 2 women that's buffing up already. I don't need a third. I don't need a third. You come into parliament, it is the members of parliament, including me, who signed a paper to make you president. How you think you come there? And you come to parliament as if you're in some school class talking down to elected members of parliament. If the PNM could take that, the UNC don't stand for that. We don't stand for that. So tonight, I tell Paula may not get into your section, because just how you is president today, tomorrow you're gone. You're gone. And if I have my way, although I will not have my way, but if I have my way, I'm not even putting up them pictures. You know, just put picture on a wall, former this and former that. I will pull down all them former. They are not even worthy of having the picture on a wall as a former office holder for what they have done to our democracy and continue to do. So I tell you all, this country, when this is happening, Rowley, he goes with his Passepartout, Phileas Fogg and Passepartout, all over the world, around the world in 8 days. Going to Switzerland, say we're going to discuss energy. 2 fellas from Trinidad going to Switzerland to make a presentation to them. Them going to Switzerland to get presentation. Not one job will be created. Not one investment dollar will come here. Nothing will be built by those trips that they are taking. That is laughable. Rowley goes with this one fella all over the world. I don't know what they have. If he put him in his suitcase and just drag him to the airport, what did they have together this way? No prime minister has done this from Eric Williams come down. Williams was known for chasing minister out of the delegation. He do it in Cuba. Yeah, nobody goes with this one-man Passepartout throughout the world. Nobody does that. No prime minister. No minutes, no notes, no lawyers, no technical support staff. No decision. When we are returned to power soon, we must go by proman or postman or what the company call and say, give us the notes of that meeting. What they will give you? Huh? The cashier bill for the bar? The hotel bill food for the hotel? They have nothing. And that is Keith Rowley again. While that is happening, this country flood away. A few days ago, did you all see WASA issue a public advisory? WASA, they say we'll have to reduce water supply in several areas. We're reducing water supply due to the flooding. They reduce water because the flood, there's a damaged pipe. This is the only country where people can't get water because of flooding. The only place no flood is the Wassa Dam. Everywhere else. And they have taken incompetent people, corrupt people, and put them all over the state sector. And today you cannot get so basic a commodity as water. You cannot forget roads and bridge and so on. Forget that. This is a country that has gone back 30, 40 years in terms of our development. These are the lost years of development. The time from Rowley 2015 to whenever we chase them out soon, they are lost years. This country's history will be written like that nothing happened. If you drive in this country, everything that was built by Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the partnership, and the United National Congress before. That is Shamfa Kojo, who is the Minister of Education? Well, I don't know about these bundles and so on. Went to open a school. She went to open a school that she didn't build, that she didn't fix, that she didn't construct, but cutting ribbon to open school and saying it's a great job. But she didn't do it. That is what we have. The Commissioner of Police, acting commissioner, who regrettably, when he got the job, even me, I find he was looking like a police. So I said, well, he's looking like a police, he probably would do a good job. Yeah, when I look, he said he can't comment because the murder rate is not 400. It might be 399. So he can't comment on the 399. He said, let me wait. When it come 400, I'll have a comment. Yeah, it's 422 now, sir. What is your comment? And he is there partnering this fella, this bungling Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines. This fella sleeps away at the best of times. He's sleeping, hapless, hopeless, clueless minister. And when you attack them, they get dangerous, they bust a gasket and start to quarrel. So brothers and sisters, these are the times we live in. I'll get to an issue that I wanted to raise with you briefly here as well. Over the last few days, UNC supporters, some, not all, we feel, over the last few days, our chief whip, our very hard-working chief whip, member of parliament for Pointe-à-Pierre, arrested on trumped-up charges that are laughable, vexatious, frivolous, bound to fail. But they did that because they are desperate, so I have the good news for you. Anytime the PNM do that, they are already walking out of power. They are on the way out. Never forget, Bastew Pandey was on charges when he took an oath as Prime Minister of this country. Don't forget that. Don't forget all the UNC had. Tim Gopi Singh, this man that the country recognized and honored him with a national award, parading him to the courts, corruption. After a couple of years when he went there, the chief magistrate said to Dr. Gopi Singh, you are free to go. Those charges are not known to the law. That is what happened in this country. People don't forget that. Finbar Ganga, Dhanraj Singh over the years, they will do that all the time, but that is a sign of their desperation and they're on the way out. Even if in the CARICOM, if you want to make an example, Excellency Irfan Ali, people just forget he was on 7 corruption charges when he became president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. When he become president, they drop all the charges. They say it's not looking too good. That is how they trump up charges against persons who are fighting them and struggling. So tonight I tell the goodly Dr. David Lee, welcome, welcome with your battle scars. It means you are fighting. And other politicians, if you don't have scars, that means you are not in battle. That means you are not in battle. So all of them who just sit down home and write and type and put column and thing, they don't have battle scars because they are not fighting. David Lee has now joined this wonderful club of honor that he has the scars to show that he is fighting. So he has arrived, the party has arrived, and now you are sure that they are desperate. And I will tell you the story very quickly. Brothers and sisters, the motor mouth man they call Hines there made a comment on the weekend. And I will tell you something. He made a comment. He said, I have the thing here, man. Yeah. His comment, he says, Hines, government had no role in Lee's charges. So what he says in a nutshell is, Minister of National Security, whatever he is, government is in no way involved in the DPP instructions to the police to charge opposition MP, Pointe-a-Pierre and so on. That's what he said. I want to remind, well, forget Hines, I want to remind the country that something happened in this country. It was the 14th of October, 2020. 2020, 14 October, that's how much? Almost 2 years now, is it? Yeah. 2 years ago, in the parliament, Imbert was winding up the debate on the budget. 2 years ago. Hear what Imbert say. Quote, Hansard. He says, perhaps the leader of the opposition can inquire of the member of Pointe-a-Pierre as to why he used exemptions and privilege to purchase a motor car. Probably in the history of this parliament, this is the first time a man purchased a motor car like that. And he accessed the benefits in tax concessions and so on. He accessed this, and he have a motor car that he hardly drive or whatever. And he went on to say that this need investigation, in Imbert words, as to how this was done. And he gives some other details and so on that I don't want to waste time reading. Imbert in 2020 raised that matter. He raised the matter. Tonight I tax Imbert. Call Imbert, tell this country. And we have a recording that we can find. So be careful. Be careful of your reply. Did you collect a file on this matter pursuant to your announcement in Parliament? Did you collect a file? Did you call the Commissioner of Police? I ask you, Mr. Imbert. Did you call the Commissioner of Police and say, Mr. Commissioner, with your normal Cheshire cat grin? Did you call and tell Griffith, I have a file, I want you to lock up David Lee? Did you do that? Did you do that? And tonight I call on Gary Griffith. Gary Griffith, please identify the cabinet minister that called you when you were commissioner. Identify the cabinet minister that called you, that sent a file to you with information, secret, confidential, private information on this said matter involving MP David Lee. Mr. Griffith, please help us out. We need to know the identity of the cabinet minister that did this. Because Mr. Griffith has said on record that Rowley has been using him, was seeking to use him, trying to use him to lock up UNC people. Look at this. Griffith writes, Police Service Commission on claims of plot. Recent newspaper. This was just a couple days ago, I think. Trinidad Guardian. And he says that when he was Commissioner of Police, he claimed he was given $45 million. $45 million to hire certain private attorneys without tender to target cases involving government political opponents. He said, he claimed he was directed to personally investigate and target the opposition leader. This is a former commissioner of police. This thing is breathtaking, mind-boggling. In a democracy, in the Commonwealth, he was tied to target the opposition leader and 3 other political opponents of the government. I'm almost certain Anil Roberts is one, with the hope to have them arrested. This is a former commissioner. This is not a former comedy master. This is a commissioner of police making a statement in a newspaper to say the prime minister and the government give him $45 million to target opposition figures. And today, And today, brothers and sisters, we have seen what they were doing. So they had to get rid of Gary Griffith, who said, I will have none of that. He said, I will have none of that. I will have none of that. And they come with some cock and bull story about who owned the car and where the car does be and who does drive the car. It matters not who driving and where the car park up. The owner of the vehicle is David Lee. He's the owner. The law only recognizes what is on a certified copy. So suppose a man buy a car and the car park up every night by double palm. Who own the car? Who you got charge, Army? You got charge, Army? He own the car? So if the car park up and sleeping by double palm every day, who you got charge? Double palm? That is the foolishness they are coming with. Yeah. If a car park up by one wood brook, we got charge, huh? We're charging. So them going special. So what they do over the last year, they send police with binoculars in the night to look where this car going, where it parking up, what time it leaving, who it coming with, and so on. What them is Mako? Just so. But when they were doing that, they didn't know who murder A, who murder B, how the murder rate reached 422 for the year. They don't know that. Don't care about that. Their resources are not for that. Their resources is to spend money, millions of dollars, to Mako members of the opposition. And I warned you a few weeks ago. I will tie this up with another important point. A few weeks ago, we showed you something else. This remarkable piece of thing here. And I just want to remind Imbert, I want to remind Imbert, when you get a private file with information on members of the public, you know when you are buying a car, you buy plenty using that same exemption, by the way. Over the years, I buy plenty. And I'm happy that over the years, I took advantage of that facility. Imbert well, we didn't talk about him, but yeah, boat, forget car. And he entitled to a boat, he entitled to a ship. In fact, Imbert entitled to a rocket to leave planet Earth and go out in space. He's entitled to that. He should buy a rocket. Brothers and sisters, when you buy a car using your exemption, you go through 3 offices. You go through the Comptroller of Customs. You go through the Board of Inland Revenue, tax. And if you take a loan, as some of us do, we go through what is called the Comptroller of Accounts. Now, the 3 branches would have our private data, because they will ask for private information. So, in this case, I want to ask Imbert, if a minister has a file to send to police, where he get the information from? Because you see, brothers and sisters, under the Income Tax Act, at Section 4, it says every person having any official duty or being employed in the administration of this act, the Income Tax Act and so on, shall regard and deal with all documents, information, returns, assessment, copies and so on, as secret and confidential, and shall make and subscribe a declaration in the form prescribed to the effect before a magistrate. So do you know, when you are in the Board of Inland Revenue, you take an oath that carries penalties in law, jail, fine, that you cannot give information? Mr. Imbert, the cabinet minister with this file, where he got the information from Board of Inland Revenue? In breach of the Income Tax Act. I want to find out that. There's also something called the Customs Act, brothers and sisters, I have it here. Customs Act. And in the amended Act number 6 of 2013, passed by our government, I must read for you again in the Customs Act, Section 280, as amended. A person having an official duty or being employed in the administration of this act shall regard and deal with all documents, entries, declarations, data, messages, and so on, as secret and confidential, and shall make and subscribe a declaration in a prescribed form before a justice of the peace. Anyone who violates this commit an offense with a penalty of $100,000 and imprisonment for 8 years. 8 years. So the Income Tax Act, the Customs Act speaks to the fact that you cannot divulge information. So long before the police was investigating that, how come a minister holding up a package and say, I have information, Mr. Griffith, lock up this one, charge that one? Where did you get the information from? That's certainly in breach of the law because police wasn't investigating that 2020 in October. Wasn't. So brothers and sisters, they are breaking the law. They are breaking the law. And I warned a few weeks ago, we had cause to point out one of the conspiracies of silence in this country is over a document I have in my hand. 2-3 weeks ago, we released this document. It is a cabinet minute dated 1971 of November 16, 2018. It is an agreement between the spying agency, SIA, Strategic Intelligence Agency, and several ministries here, brothers and sisters, including regional corporation, but private entities like Flow, Green Dot, Digicel, and DOMA, that one always interests us, Downtown Owners and Merchants Association, signing an agreement with the spying agency of the government to share information. We objected to this. The PNM has said nothing. Minister Hines has said nothing. Minister Young was the minister at the time. He has said nothing. Rowley is between Switzerland and Iceland or something. He said nothing. But you know they sent a fella from Diego Martin, I don't know his name offhand, always laughing. Debrega or something like that. Nobrega? Yes. He's the Minister of Communication. He communicates, he said, Monilal is wrong, we're not doing that. And he gone away, you know. He gone back wherever he come from. And this is a serious matter. He never said that the cabinet minute is fake. He never said that the agreement is fake. But he was saying, we're not doing that, we're not spying. And today we warn you, they want to put a revenue authority where the minister will have more power. And when he had less power, he had file in his hand. They have file in their hand on income tax, on the Board of Inland Revenue material, and on customs. You could imagine with more power. Now they have agreements in place. And here the agreement with customs and excise. So anytime you buy anything, businessmen of this country and women, anytime you buy anything and going through customs, Imbert and others can get all the information. Your secret, private, confidential information. Sometimes you're in a business and you don't want people to know the price of goods you are paying because that's called trade, trade practice, and it's a competitive environment. So the law protects you in that your competitors don't know how much you're paying for, I don't know, paint or something. You know, all of that now will be leaked. Information from customs as it was leaked unlawfully in the case. So brothers and sisters, Border Inland Revenue is here. They have done this. They have done this to get information from citizens, confidential, private information. And I speak to you again about the dictatorship we live in. This is a dictatorship. The Prime Minister, when he got to this position called Prime Minister, he chairs a cabinet subcommittee called the National Security Council. Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa chaired that for 5 years. But she never thought she was a policewoman, you know. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa never thought that meant she's a police, you know. She knew that was a coordinating policy-making body of cabinet that takes critical policy on security. Somebody tell Rowley he's a policeman. He wants to know about everything going on in your house, and he didn't know what going on in his house. Right problem there, Anil. He wants to know everything going on in your house. He wants to know everything going on in David Lee's house, and he forget to watch his house. That's the problem. That's the problem. He thought he's policeman. So he comes now as policeman, and he in charge. He's police. He's hiring people and making them special reserve policemen to investigate the Susu business when they had a big seizure of money and so on. In the EMBDC matter, Tim mentioned, they bring down lawyer from England, other professional people from England, paid them so far $45 million and counting. You know what they do? They make them SRP. They say last time they investigate and think they had no power, so we're making them police. But typical, they don't read law, they don't understand law. There's a case right now before the court that may go to the Privy Council, and in that matter, it is a strong contention that given the structure of what is called the Special Reserve Police Act, you cannot have Special Reserve Police officers involved in criminal investigations. The law spells out they are called special reserve for a purpose, because they are reserved for a special purpose. And the special purpose is if you have a national disaster, an earthquake, some great calamity, rioting taking place, you call out people. A state of emergency, they are called out. And in the famous Endell Thomas case, of course, that spoke about separating the executive from police officers. That police officers ought not to be under the control of the politician. That's a famous case. And in what we are seeing now is Rowley has breached the Special Reserve Police Act by hiring people and giving them the mandate to undertake or participate in undertaking criminal investigations. And the law is clear. The Special Reserve Police Act is very clear. A Special Reserve policeman or woman is not a normal police officer. They are not protected as a police officer. They do not have the confidentiality. They do not have the independence, the impartiality of a police officer in law. Under the Special Reserve Police Act, do you know, I don't want to quote it whole night here for you, but do you know a Special Reserve Police officer and that group can take instructions from a minister? Under the Act, the minister gives general direction and order to Special Reserve Police officers. Yes, they are contracted. So if a minister tells a Special Reserve SRP, hello, I want all your boys to lock up Roberts, lock up Munila, lock up Lee, lock up them UNC. And they don't do it, or they don't appear to be doing it, they will simply end their contract, terminate them. But you're trying to make them police. But the regular is governed by the Police Service Act and the Police Service regulations that spells out their independence, and the Constitution deals with that, police service in the Constitution. Rowley has been breaching this act, Special Reserve Police Act, and unlawfully putting SRP Kate and others from England, putting Barbados police officers to come here, make them SRP, to be involved in criminal investigations. $85 million, while they are under the general direction and control of the Minister of National Security. That cannot work, because when you do criminal investigation, it is only the police, what we call under the Police Service Act, working in tandem with the DPP. And you know, every time they want to charge or lock up UNC people, they're saying, not we, you know, we don't get involved in that, that's DPP. Mr. Jacob himself, the police acts in accordance with the DPP. We take instructions, so it's not police really. But you could take any lie, manufacture any evidence, false accusations, false evidence, and go by the DPP. The DPP does not investigate nothing. How much cases fly out the window, thrown out at the court, but the DPP authorized the filing of the charges, huh? The DPP did authorize filing, but the DPP cannot investigate. So when you lie on affidavit, when you lie in your declarations, when you produce false evidence, go by the DPP will watch it, the office that is, and say, well, that thing looking serious. I think you could go ahead and lay charges. When everything fly out of court, malicious prosecution. If I have my way, and I will not have my way. Sure. I will increase penalty for police officers in cases of malicious prosecution, where the taxpayer has to foot hundreds of thousands of dollars. When a case falls apart and it becomes clear that the police had no case, I would increase penalties and fine and jail for members of the law enforcement community. And when they pursue political opponents and get involved in witch hunt for their political masters, I feel it's time we look at those things, you know. Look at those things. We can't continue like this banana republic kind of place where you could just lie, falsify documents, false evidence, go by the DPP can't investigate nothing, and say, yes, that's looking good, man. Credible, credible. 5 years later, 7 years later, like Tim Gopi Singh, the DPP authorized them charges, and the chief magistrate says those charges are not known to the law. What happened to anybody except Tim Gopi Singh? Yes. And somebody went far after that, as they do today still. So brothers and sisters, we are living in dangerous times. This attempt to undermine the SRP Act and to bring in SRP put them in criminal investigations is against the law. And this matter will go to the Privy Council. And we are convinced the Privy Council will rule on it. And
the views expressed are not necessary. Street 919 FM.
Democracy. Structure. These ministers have given up. I think they throw up their hand in the air and say, look, we can't make no more. We're done. Or they do anything all they want now. We can't. $100 million to establish a new company to pave road, while you have 8 companies that could pave road. $100 million to that. Imbert will come to the parliament and $100 million, and you cannot fix a pothole. When we were there, Jolene will remember, we bought 2 trucks with this special equipment to fix pothole. In fact, we wanted to fix pothole in the HDC estates. So we buy it through a local supplier. We bought it. Soon as we left, they rip it off. They go on one night in the dark in the night and thief it from the HDC. Carry it to Ministry of Works. The Minister of Works announced with fanfare, we fixing pothole throughout the country. The 2 truck break down. They can't fix the truck. That had to fix the road. And that is where we are. This thing is, you know, it would have been funny had it not been tragic. Had it not been tragic. 7 years now, they cannot open the Ramaitres Hindu School. Children have gone and completed primary school education in a temple about 14 miles away. Not in a school. And in a temple where they cannot eat anything they want. Their diet is restricted because it's a temple. Imagine a child go to school for 5 years, primary school, and couldn't get the meal of his or her choice. That is a criminal who does that. That's a criminal. School open, you know the children have to go 20 miles, whatever mile, 10, 20. You know they haven't arranged transport yet. So the poor children don't have a school, and then when they're at a temple they could go to and make a school, they didn't get transport. This is, let me tell you something, this is evil. We are dealing with demons and evil people now. That you would do children that. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa would go in areas, PNM areas, I have to tell you, where there's Diego Martin, Lavantil, Porterspain, Arima, Point Fortin, and she would open schools. We have health centers we can show you, built in areas that it was never really UNC. We have houses built, hospitals built. It is our government, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, that fulfilled the promise of Eric Williams. That Eric Williams, he promised the highway to Point Fortin. It is Kamla Prasad Bisesa that started that, and we were going to complete it. The Point Fortin Hospital. The Point Fortin Hospital, it was Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the partnership. The Arima Hospital. The Mayaro Fire Station, where they don't have a fire brigade. Today, when you pass there and you look, the whole of the place empty. They could play windball cricket there at that fire station. There are no fire brigade under this PNM. And then we built as well the San Fernando Teaching Hospital. When people go from my constituency there and they're on the 14th floor and lie down on a bed, I say, how it is? They say, boy, we feel we in the Hyatt. They're in a hospital, you know. They call it the Hyatt Hospital. So beautiful, technology driven, and so on. We built that. Well, don't talk about the Kuva Hospital. If it wasn't for that Kuva Hospital, I don't know how, but 20,000 would have died from COVID. They found the keys when COVID come. So brothers and sisters, we have much more work to do. Our party, our leader. She has the experience now. She has the team of men and women, the competence, the plan, the vision. There is nothing that should stop us now from reclaiming the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Nothing. We are a few hundred votes away from government. Placed strategically, we are a few hundred votes away. That is why they're coming after David Lee. And they will come. David Lee is last week news. This week will be somebody else. Next week will be somebody else. As Tim said, it is not the first, it is not the last. So don't let that bother you, UNC supporters, members, activists, family. Don't be troubled by that. Don't be troubled by that. That happens in liberation struggles all over the world. Mahatma Gandhi went to jail. Nelson Mandela, I think he spent 27 years in jail. Lee, you are spending no day in jail, but Dr. David Lee is here. Give him a round of applause. He's our hero of the moment.
You are spending 27 years, not one day, for that waste of time, trumped up business. That is just to try to scandalize and put the opposition in the back foot. But we're not on no back foot. We are on the front foot, and our hands are around their neck. Our hands are around their neck. So don't take on that and don't feel weak and feel, oh God, look what's happening. No, nothing is happening except the PNM desperation, and they will be thrown out. But we must stay, as Tim, Anil and others say, we must stay united. Stay focused. I'm happy so many of you came out tonight. So many are listening and following. It means whether they charge one, the other one, whether it's one charge, 2, 20, 100, it matters not. It matters not. The people are not buying into that now. The people not taking on that now. The people who taking on that, they're not supporting you in the first place. So forget that. They wasn't supporting you in the first place. Them who go take on that and write and talk and so on. We must stand strong and united. Under one leader, one party, one mission, one vision. Thank you all very much. Thank you all very, very much for the wonderful attention and listening to me tonight. Thank you and God bless you.
So who feel the black? Who feel the white? I don't know. But we check it tomorrow night. Who feel the right? Come and go. And all who feel the too bright. Let me jump up. Let me wind up. Party non-stop. Ramage tingle like a we come to play mass. Every creed and class. Don't let nothing pass. Like a ready TV, all the love inside the way. Uptown and ghetto. Feeling the tempo. Soca and Kaiso.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.